Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. Welcome back to Glowing Success. Today I have LaTonya Johnson on. She is the president and founder of Minnesota Electrolysis LLC. So we are going to be talking everything about permanent hair removal, everything about electrolysis. So if you're interested in that topic, stay tuned. But welcome, LaTonya.
Hello there, Heidi. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to talk about this topic because, I've benefited from electrolysis myself. You've done treatments on me. I love it. There's so many reasons I think the listeners are going to love it. But anybody that's listening that doesn't know who you are, can you go into a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm LaTonya Johnson. I am the owner or president of Minnesota Electrolysis, and I once was a client, and that's how I got involved in electrology. Um, just was a mom with two children. Moved here in 2003 with my girls, and my journey started just with my own issues and concerns with hair removal. Really don't know where to
That's
start.
amazing.
Where started.
I know, right? There's so much to get into. I'm so excited. Well, I think it's fantastic that you actually started your journey from being, a client and going through that. I know, in the past you shared some of your story about doing laser and how laser kind of made you get into electrolysis. Would you be willing to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, I am a woman of color, and so a lot of times, when you go to different establishments that actually practice laser, laser is a reduction of hair growth, and then the particular situation that I had encountered was I was actually burned by the laser. Um, and so my journey kind of started then with a lot of hyperpigmentation, trying to figure out which way to go for a permanent solution for my unwanted hair. And so just to stroll back just a little, I had actually was doing some research, just looking up, trying to see where can I go, who can help me, and I end up finding um, Electrology Associates, and Renee Anderson was the owner of Electrology Associates, and this was back in maybe I would want to say maybe 2011. And I actually went in for a consultation with Renee and end up finding out that electrolysis was actually better for me. It was the only FDA approved method for permanent hair removal. And I had very coarse and coarse hair, along with a lot of ingrowns from tweezing, waxing, and threading throughout my years, which those were not the correct methods for removing my hair. Actually, I was causing more, I would say, issues or concerns to my hair follicles.
Yeah, which is so common. And, I will say, being a professional in the beauty industry, we have so much opportunity to help our customers and help people through this journey. So I'm so glad that that person shared with you, like, hey, this is an amazing, treatment for you. This is probably what you're looking for. This is how to, treat this, and really found that solution for you and gave you that solution. Now, electrolysis is so unique because, like you said earlier, that it's the only FDA approved hair removal. So, laser hair reduction, I should say, is legally we can only say it's a reduction because it really only reduces a certain amount of your hairs, because it doesn't get rid of the vellus hairs, it doesn't get rid of certain amount of hairs. But electrolysis is different, where you go into each individual follicle. Can you go into a little bit of information about how electrolysis is actually performed compared to laser?
Absolutely. So, with electrolysis, well, actually, let's start from the beginning. When a client comes in, um, I provide them with the necessary information that they need in order to make a decision if they would like laser or electrolysis. First, I try to go into what type of diagnosis. Is it PCOS? Is it thyroid concerns? Were they just clients that tweeze frequently, which causes 7 to 10 hairs to grow in one area? And so what I do is I provide a consultation to get a clear understanding, to let that client know how long they will be. Usually it's about 18 months. And so what I start out with, educating them about how we remove the hair and cauterize the hair from the blood supply. So what we do is we go along your hair follicle with a fine filament. We release current along your hair follicle, and then it is removed with a tweezer. Even though we do ask you not to tweeze, we're not tweezing, we're actually cauterizing. And that hair is actually cauterized with heat. And so that's how we provide service to each hair follicle. A client will need to come in once every 2 weeks, when they first get started, because that is when the hair is in its active stage, and which is the anagen stage. And so we come up with a plan just for that client. Everyone's different. Some people come in once a month, but that is what FDA approved means when it comes to electrology, is cauterizing that hair from that blood supply. Some clients will come in and say, well, if you are tweezing my hairs, and I have to always correct the client and let them know that we are not tweezing your hairs, we are cauterizing, but this is the only instrument that we have in order to remove the hair. We try to avoid any hyperpigmentation by educating the client about retinol and tretinoin and different skincare products that needs to be avoided at the time of having services, because it can cause more issues towards the pigment of the skin.
Yeah, which is amazing. I mean, full consultations are so necessary with every service, right? So I love that you guys do that, because I'm sure what happens is a lot of your clients come to you and don't really know what electrolysis is. Because I will say there's not a lot of providers that do this. And I think one of the reasons is because it's kind of a tedious task, right? I don't know if you agree with this. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just we're going hair to hair here. So I think that's the reason why it's not as popular maybe as laser. But for me, and even I recommend it to customers, I think it's an amazing service for different reasons. And it's obviously
Mhm.
different than laser for many reasons. But what areas can you treat with electrolysis? Because I think that's something that people that are listening will probably be interested in, especially, a lot of my listeners tend to be beauty professionals, and maybe they already offer laser services, and this is something that they maybe are interested in. So maybe they're thinking, okay, so what can I do with electrolysis? So what body parts can you actually do or are preferred to do with electrolysis?
All body parts can be treated with electrolysis. There are only two, well, I would say, situations where a client will not be able to have services, and that is a client with a pacemaker. Um, that's why it is very important to dig in deep with your clients at a consultation to make sure you understand what type of medications that they are taking, along with their health conditions. And you want to be mindful of clients that actually have eczema. Um, those are the two things those are the two things that would actually stop a client from having electrolysis treatment.
Good to know.
Anyone that's in the laser um, industry, one thing that I don't do is that I do not down what laser can do far as the bikini area, legs, and underarms, because I have found out over years that we may can go in and do touch-ups with electrolysis, but some people do qualify or are good candidates for the laser. But when you're dealing with, I always say, facial hair on just, I would just say, I wouldn't say everyone, but women with PCOS, polycystic, or women with thyroid concerns, I would always say never put a laser on your face. And the reason why is because the hair that grows on your chin is more hormone. You're dealing with more hormone-based hair growth. And so with that laser, sometimes it can actually allow more hair to grow because the hair follicles are really being, I would say, more,
Invigorated.
well, yeah, yeah,
Mhm, mhm, or
absolutely.
promoted to grow in a sense, because they sometimes will
And
get that, sensation,
because
so
you can get that, well, you can allow 7 to 10 hairs to grow in one area when you tweeze. And so I always advise clients, once you start electrolysis, please refrain yourself from tweezing, waxing, or threading. And then what'll happen is I'll have a client, they'll come in and they'll say, well, I had 15, 20 treatments of laser. And now I'm coming in to get touch-ups. Well, I still need to educate that client to let them know you have your epidermis, your dermis, and subcutaneous layer that has, laser has had you shave. So now I need you to grow the hair out so we can cauterize it and destroy it from the blood supply. And in that um, transition of them from laser to electrolysis, they'll say, well, LaTonya, it seems like I have more hair. Well, if they had you shave, okay, where's that root going? I'm actually opening up Pandora's box. Whatever laser didn't get, we're going to have to remove with electrolysis. And so, that's one thing that my clients um, really respect and like about me, because I do go over things with them very thoroughly up front and give them a chance to educate themselves. If it's something I'm not doing correctly with educating them, I let them sometime go out and do it on their own. They usually come back and
yep,
they'll say,
yep,
hey, I'm ready to get started. And, I once was a client. So it doesn't
yep,
mean that I know everything about electrolysis from the beginning, from the rooter to the tutor, but I know enough to
right,
let you know that my experience, it speaks
yeah.
for itself.
Yeah. And it's an amazing thing. So I was that client to you. So
Mhm,
I've had electrolysis done by LaTonya, everybody, and I had laser hair removal done for many years. So I used to work for
mhm,
American Laser when I first got out of
mhm,
beauty school. I've done laser in my spa. I still do laser in my spa. And
mhm,
I will say I never had the best results from laser. And mind you, I've done laser with the top of the line lasers, quote unquote. I've done, every laser you can think of. And I never got good results, and I always played around with my timing because, like you said earlier, sometimes
mhm.
your anagen phase will slow, sometimes
Yeah.
it'll grow faster, so you have to play around with the
Mhm,
timing. I've done a lot of that different stuff, and I just never had the results I was looking for. Well, come to find out, my hair is actually a little light, and so I was like, "Oh, well, that makes sense." Like, but from the
mhm,
eye, I look like I kind of have like a darker dishwater blonde, kind of whatever they call it, hair. So I was thinking
mhm,
I have pigment. I have enough pigment in my hair. The laser should catch it, but I think I just didn't. And so when I came to you, I was like, I just want to get rid of whatever's growing under my underarms. It's not
mhm,
very
mhm.
much, but it's enough to annoy me, and I didn't like it. And you got rid of it, and I haven't even thought about my underarms ever since. So,
Well,
so
so when you provided the service with the laser up under your arm, Heidi, how often did you actually service that underarm area? Did you do it when you seen the hair? Was it once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Was it pushed out once a month?
Yeah, so at first, I think years ago when I worked for American Laser, we would do it once a month because their protocols were a little tighter. And back in those days, I mean, this was 13 years ago, so lasers have
Mhm,
kind of come a long way with that too. But, you know, they were really strict on the timing. They didn't play around with it as much. And then years
mhm,
later, I went to my friend's business and we played around with it more. So I actually started coming in at 3 weeks because sometimes what happens is it'll
cool.
rush that, you know, and then that didn't work, and then when I got my laser in my clinic, I actually went to 5 weeks because I was like, "Well, let me see if that works." So I played around with a little bit of everything. But
Mhm,
2 weeks I didn't never do. So 3 weeks was the soonest I went in for laser hair removal. 5 weeks was the longest, and 4 weeks was the average, basically. So it was
okay,
an interesting
okay.
process, but I never got good results on my Brazilian area. I never, so it was interesting because to this day, I'm just like, I'm just not a good candidate for laser. Like I've done it all. I've gone to the experts. I've been the expert, like I
Mhm,
do
mhm,
think that there is just certain hair color that doesn't pick up with the laser very well. So I'm really happy about electrolysis, and that's really an option for people because if you're listening and you have clients that are kind of feeling lost and like you're feeling lost a little bit, like just know that there
mhm,
is a service like electrolysis out there, you guys, because when it comes to hair reduction and hair removal, there's a lot of reasons that your clients are going to want to come in and get that done. And so, investigate that number one, because, the client coming to you, they could just want to do it for vanity, whatever. They could do it because there's a lot of hyperpigmentation, irritation, scarring. I mean, there's so many
mhm,
different reasons. So I will say, like, it's such a blessing. Electrolysis is definitely something that there's not education everywhere for it. So I will say, like, I know that you have kind of a long list of different educational resources for this, but
mhm,
there's probably different places around town. But if somebody's listening and they were looking for a place, or let's say they were qualifying different places and kind of looking around, what are some ways and things to look for in education institutions that you think would be good if people are looking into educating themselves to be a professional? And then if you do
mhm,
have a very specific institution that you suggest, we can always put that in the show notes. But I'm just
mhm.
talking about, like, let's say somebody lives in California and they're trying to look for schools that are around them. Like, what should they look for with, like, is there accreditation? Is there something hour wise? Like, what should they look for?
Okay, so one thing about electrolysis, there is not a lot of electrologists, actually what you said, Heidi, here in Minnesota, but in other states, they're everywhere just like laser. So it's just that you have to find in your area. So a lot of times you can just Google how to become a electrologist, in my area. Put your state in, put your city if you like, but put your state in. They should come up. But American Institute of Education, the AIE, has started an online academy where you can become a professional electrolysis. I am so happy for this is because I am looking for help. I am looking it took me a long time to actually admit that I need help. This is a wonderful service to provide people a great solution. We have a lot of transgenders that come in to us and see uh, talk about electrolysis and how it's been wonderful for them or a friend, and women with PCOS, women who has excessive hair growth on their face. This is a wonderful service. It's been around since what's been about 150 years. Electrolysis has been around, and I want to go back to what Heidi said. I'm sorry to get off of what she was asking
No,
me.
that's okay.
You're
We love
you're
it.
you are more than welcome to just go online and look and see. But the American Electrology associates will be more than happy to help you. The educational piece, the person to contact will be Patsy Kirby. She is actually the educational in the educational department. But there's a number you can call you can actually call 1-888-844-4247, and it's AIE. It's Online Academy, American Institute of Education, and they're actually starting to. I think it's $7,000 or $8,000 for training. They have different programs where you can get scholarships, and if you are in the Minnesota area and you take that class, I will have a place for you to come and work and service
I
clients
love
and
that.
help people. And I went through a brain aneurysm surgery just
Yeah,
last year, trying to get myself in order. And I was in, Heidi knows this, I was actually getting ready to go get my boards, and health, things came my way where it kind of slowed me down a little bit. But I'm a professional electrolysis where I am able to treat, run a business. I am able to help you and train you on a machine. I can actually make sure you're doing the right things. But overall, training you to get your credits, to get your CPE, I am not eligible. I am not able to do that. But it doesn't make me qualify. It doesn't make me not qualified to run a business. I have
right.
over, says I'm coming up on 10 years of
I know.
being in electrology. And this is my third location.
Yep, yep.
And I have good standings, good reviews. I
Yep.
love what I do, and I guarantee that once you get involved in it. Now, I want to go back to something that you said, Heidi, that was very important. I really agree with you when it comes to why is there not a lot of electrologists here in Minnesota? And I just really think a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah,
A
it's
lot
like a
of people don't
secret.
advertise. It's like a secret, and people don't like to
Yes.
talk about it. But
Yeah.
I really think that in the next 5 to 10 years, people are going to start talking about electrolysis a lot, just like laser.
Yeah, I already see it. There's more clinics popping up,
Mhm.
and so I think it's definitely one of those things that, I think the laser industry kind of wowed people in the early 2000s a little bit, and
Mhm.
so I think that's part of it is things kind of go through those phases where things are really popular and buzzwords and things like that. But electrolysis, like you said, has been around a really long time, 150 years, people. Like that's been a
150
long
years.
time. Yeah. So, and I think it's just such an amazing thing. Like you said, all the reasons that people should get it done. There's so much more, even. So, I really will think, like, like you said, there's just needs to be more education out there that's accessible. And you had mentioned there's online classes and you can take more, education to that educational path with even AIE. They probably have it where you can become an electrologist and do all that. So, I'll leave
They
this
provide
all in the
you with
show
the
notes.
training, and they'll provide you with the training that you need in order to be able to start. But I do recommend you
Mhm.
should team up. You want to get with people who's been out here for a while, that actually kind of knows the industry, connections with doctors. I have
Yeah.
referrals from like 4 different doctors, and it took work. And
Yeah.
so many people want to jump up and open up their own business, and that's fine. But make
Yep.
sure you connect, women empowering women. Connect with
Right.
people who've been out here for a while that can help guide you. Heidi knows I've been
Yep.
to um,
Yep.
different academies, different
Yep.
schools talking about electrolysis, but just my voice doesn't always just carry as far as it should. I just think that things are going to happen in all divine order. And
Yep.
I think that
I love that.
powering up together with women, that
Yep.
we all can help and grow this electrolysis that is well needed.
Yeah.
Insurance doesn't cover it.
Right.
And
And you know
so I
what?
think that, huh?
I will say the other thing about electrolysis, so we've just only been talking about the hair removal, but there's other things you can do with those filament pieces. Like, I have gotten actually my like broken capillaries corrected on the side of my own nose with
Mhm, mhm,
electrolysis. And so
mhm.
there's more
Actually,
than
you
just
can also
removal.
absolutely, actually, you can cauterize, and you can actually, you know how you get little milias or little milias right up
The
under your eyes,
angiomas.
that yes, you actually
Mhm.
can actually remove those. And it's actually doing extractions. That's what it actually boils down to. It's actually extracting
Right.
it out of the area, but you need to have enough training to be able
Right.
to do that stuff. And
But you
Bonnie and I
can.
really don't do as much. I know how to do it, but I try not to provide that type of service because, far as the training in that, I haven't actually had a lot of training in that.
That's right. You specialize in hair removal. But,
That's
the
right.
thing that I think the listeners love to hear is when they get into electrolysis and start going to school for it and become an electrologist, there's so much more that you can do with that education than just hair removal. So if you're listening and you're like, I really like this, but I want to be a little bit more multifaceted, that is definitely something to think about is you can remove, broken capillaries, you can
Mhm.
do, angiomas, you can do like those, yeah, what she was mentioning earlier. So I think that's something to think about too, is this is so much more than just, those things. Just the hair. I mean, so I think it's amazing. I agree with you. I think it's definitely going to be something that is going to be talked about more and more in the next coming years. So I'm really excited for Minnesota to have, more conversations around that, because not saying that you should open up an education center, because I know we've talked about that. You got a lot on your plate, girl. But I do think that, if we put the energy out there and, like you said, work together and, do things, I think there is going to be, education that's closer to this Twin Cities, because I think there's one person that has a full education in Minnesota, but they're like down by Rochester or something like that. So I could be wrong with this, but I think from my previous research, that was like the closest like
So
hands-on
that is
training.
correct. That is correct. And then they had
Okay.
actually training here in Minnesota, and it was over probably about 20 years ago. But when lasers started coming into um,
Which was about that
coming very
time.
fast, and about that time, they actually started closing down a lot of places because they felt like, hey, laser is about to overpower us. They found something. A lot of businesses closed down too. We had,
Yeah.
I want to say, in 2020, what was it, 2023, when I first started kind of learning about this stuff. I would say that's when I moved here, started trying to do my little research. There was probably about 20 electrolysis places here in Minnesota, and they
Yeah.
slowly closed down. But I really think that just
Yeah.
networking, women
Yeah. And some of
coming
it was
together to
retirement,
make this
right?
possible. Yeah. Well, some
Yeah.
of it was retirement. I would say
Right.
a lot of it was retirement, and then a lot of
Right.
like younger generations didn't step
They
out to
got
buy those businesses to keep them going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So listen, if you're in Minnesota and you're listening to this and you're thinking about, getting a new business or buying a business, you can maybe think about that. But this is definitely something to think about, you guys, especially if you're already really passionate about, hair removal or hair reduction in any way, or, trying to look for something else. Maybe you haven't found that specific service that you really gravitated towards. Now, obviously for me, I'm a big believer in trying something before you really know what it's about. So like for me, I've had the service done. LaTonya, she started off as a client. So like, if you're even interested in electrolysis and you are, and you don't have any contraindications, which the contraindications are very low, I highly suggest trying to find somebody in your area and getting it done. We all have hair somewhere on our body that we want to remove. So so I don't think that
Mhm.
should be a problem. Um, and really get it done and see what it's about. And, like she said, network in your area if this is something you're interested in, and talk to those people about where they went to school and what they did. And you just never know what those connections are going to bring. But also, you never know, maybe this is the service that you've been looking for,
Mhm.
in secret, and like didn't know it was there, because sometimes it is about that. Like in the beauty industry is so big that sometimes we're only shown the things that we either learn in beauty school or we see online or we hear as buzzwords, we hear popular words. So I will say there's a lot more things out there than what we know. So I love that I was introduced to this. I love that I knew about it. I love that I educated myself on it. And so this is something that I love. And so other than that, what do you think will be kind of the next thing for electrolysis? Do you think it's, more things are going to open? Do you think in the next year, like more people are going to start offering it? I do see the trend of like there is more inclusivity around it. So I think people are kind of gravitating towards that. I don't know. What
Mhm.
do you think?
I think it's coming. It's coming
Yeah,
along. It's
me
gonna
too.
take its time. I mean, we really
Yep.
need it. We really need it
Yeah.
here, and I think really fighting for it. I think it starts with
Yep.
letting insurance companies know that
Oh,
this is a
yeah.
problem. It's a
Yep.
diagnosis that's behind it. So why insurance is not covering it?
Yeah, like hirsutism. Yep. I think
Yeah,
like, yeah, you're
absolutely.
right with that, and if more people could address that, because I do think insurance is already complicated with things, but a lot of it is bringing it up to these, companies and these things,
Insurance
is saying,
companies.
hey, this should be covered. This should be something
Mhm,
that
mhm.
people can, because it can correct a lot of things, like especially when it
It
comes to
can.
scarring, especially when it comes to pain management, especially when it comes to, so I agree with you on that one. I think people, but like you said, it has to become popular. It has to become like more people have to talk about it. I am so excited. So if you are listening and inspired, I hope you are, because I feel very inspired right now. But thank you, LaTonya, for being on today. I'm not going to take too much more of your time. Other than that, everything that we mentioned, like AIE and the show, is going to be in the show notes. And of course, LaTonya's website will be in the show notes too. But other than that, thank you for being on today, LaTonya.
You are welcome. Teamwork make the dream work, Heidi.
Yes, it sure does. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you liked that episode and found something useful or a tip that you can use immediately. If you are wanting more marketing tips, business tips, or anything like that, I have a lot of resources on my website. So I have PDFs that you can download for free. So look in your show notes. There should be a link in the show notes that you can click on, and it'll take you right to my coaching website. And thanks for listening.